Welcome to Arlington Public News. I'm James Milan.
And I'm Brenda Mahoney. Thanks for joining us. In this edition of APN, Arlington says a heartfelt goodbye to Kevin Greeley. He passed away of natural causes this week unexpectedly. APN talks to friends and colleagues who remember a man they say best exemplifies Arlington's perfect ambassador and a gentleman who loved life.
Another exchange of ideas on what the future Arlington High School should look like on the outside. This just before significant architectural decisions are to be made. We'll have the latest.
And how does Arlington get rid of the excess rat population? Some experts are looking to the skies, but there's a snag in the food chain. We'll explain that and more up next. Stay with us.
We will have extensive coverage of the loss of Kevin Greeley, Arlington's longest-serving Select Board member and the town's unofficial ambassador, in just a moment.
But first, a story that broke late this week. A Boston woman was arraigned on human trafficking charges and held on $100,000 bail. This after investigators say she was using 4 area businesses as fronts for prostitution, and one is in Arlington. The blinds now cover the storefront of Lisa Massage Therapy at 828 Mass Ave. According to a statement released by Middlesex District Attorney Marion Ryan's office, 47-year-old Don Jang was arrested and set to be arraigned for trafficking persons for sexual servitude and other related prostitution charges. Investigators say search warrants were issued for the 4 businesses, including the Mass Ave parlor. The other 3 are located in Dracut, Boston, and Stoneham. A home in Boston was also searched, according to the statement. Jang's arrest is the result of an extensive investigation which began back in June. Over the course of the last 6 months, police say they learned that male clients were allegedly offered sex for an additional fee at the massage parlors, and that Jang scheduled appointments and reportedly transported women from Boston to the businesses to sell them for sex. According to the DA's office, 6 female victims have already been located. Jang was arrested in Boston this week and immediately transported to Arlington to be booked. Her next court date is set for January 10th. In our other top story, the town of Arlington is mourning the loss of one of its favorite sons.
Longtime Arlington Select Board member Kevin Greeley passed away on November 24th. He had been on the board for nearly 30 years and was serving his 10th term, having been re-elected 2 years ago. Greeley's passing came as a shock to friends and loved ones alike. He leaves behind his wife Ann and 2 children, Sean and Katie.
As APN's Jeff Barn discovered, he will be greatly missed by friends and co-workers at Town Hall as well, where Greeley clearly left a lasting legacy.
It was back to work at Town Hall after a long Thanksgiving Day holiday weekend. Even though the business of government never stops, stunned co-workers paused to remember a respected colleague and a great friend.
I received a call Saturday morning from the police chief that Kevin had passed away of natural causes overnight, Friday night into Saturday morning. And again, it was shocking. I had talked to him earlier in the week. He was wishing me a happy Thanksgiving and me the same to him. And my understanding is he was at his 50th high school reunion that evening, Friday evening. Had a great time. I saw some of his high school friends at the Boys and Girls Club this weekend, and they said the same, that he was there having a great time and, was his usual happy social self. So it was completely unexpected, and it's a tremendous loss for the community.
Everybody is in a state of shock. Can't even talk about it. State of shock, no one ever expected, not from Kevin.
Town leaders say Kevin Greeley was looked upon as the dean of the Select Board, a man with exceptional knowledge of town government and a keen sense of procedure and policy. As a result, co-workers say he had his share of outstanding accomplishments.
In terms of things that he championed, in my time, I saw him champion the East Arlington Mass Ave redevelopment. I've seen him champion public arts in town. I've seen him champion a number of other things. I think in longer history, before I was here, I know he championed expanding or allowing liquor licenses in town, which I really think has helped revitalize the local economy in Arlington with restaurants in town. And I think there's a lot of things in town that Kevin can be directly traced back to Kevin and his colleagues, but that Kevin took a leadership role in making happen in town.
Kevin was not afraid to take on something that some people were against, and he would listen to you, and whatever decision he made was truly for the best for the town of Arlington and the residents. He was never afraid to attack an issue.
And when he was attacking an issue, town leaders say Kevin Greeley shined.
I always told people, Kevin would always ask me some of the hardest questions that I'd be asked. He was no pushover. He definitely wanted to make sure that we were doing things right and that everything balanced out and that he understood what he was voting on. So he really did have this great way of balancing a friendly and welcoming persona with someone who took his job very seriously as a member of the Select Board.
Most of all, colleagues say they'll miss Greeley's wisdom, his counsel, his smile.
And he's going to be truly missed by the entire town. Young people, old people, the entire town and beyond.
I'm Jeff Barn, Arlington Public News.
Kevin Greeley had just celebrated his 68th birthday on October the 10th.
Arlingtonians had their chance to say their goodbyes as well. Loved ones were invited to express heartfelt condolences at a public wake at Town Hall on November 27th from 2 to 7 p.m. Police were busy outside preparing for the crowds. Side streets were closed off around Town Hall from Academy Street to the library, and no parking signs were placed on Mass Ave eastbound from Academy Street to Peg Spengler Way. And MBTA bus traffic was detoured eastbound as well, not picking up at Town Hall or the library. As the flag flew at half-staff, people began pouring into the auditorium to sign guest books, meet with members of the Greeley family, and look at videos and pictures that celebrated the extraordinary life of Arlington's longest-serving selectman. Friends, family, and colleagues told APN Kevin Greeley always volunteered his time to the betterment of his community, supported countless events and committees, and was an excellent diplomat. Most of all, Kevin Greeley was one of a kind, and he undoubtedly loved his family, his friends, and the town he always called home.
I always referred to Kevin as the most generous person I ever met. You'd go golfing with him and he'd be like, come on in, let me get you a shirt or a jacket. And I almost wore a jacket today that he had bought just for the sake of wearing it. But just a tremendous family guy, tremendous friend, just a real nice, and the family it's just a strong family.
When I think about essentially my first vote on the board was to raise taxes, and that's a really hard vote to take. And when it was time to, we were wavering between option A or option B, it was so helpful and comforting to rely on and just look at Kevin and say, all right, Kevin, you've done this before. What's your gut say is the right one? I mean, they were both good options, but neither of them was the winner. And I'm really going to miss relying on him for that.
Well, Kevin, a wise man once said, a life well lived is a life that has humor, family and love, and leaving a legacy. And I think Kevin epitomized each of those key points in living a life. I mean, he lived like no other man I know. He had a great sense of humor and was the energy in every room he ever walked in, and truly adored and loved his family like no other man that I know. And in terms of leaving a legacy, man, he's left a legacy in this community like no other. He's just, he lived and breathed Arlington.
A funeral mass was held the following morning at St. Agnes Church, and from there a slow-moving motorcade made its way down Medford Street to Mount Pleasant Cemetery, where loved ones gathered to honor a loving husband, father, son, and one of Arlington's most beloved and influential leaders. Anyone who had the pleasure to know Kevin Greeley will tell you his gifts, both personal and professional, were countless.
That's right. He began his career as an Arlington Select Board member 30 years ago, something that was very familiar in the Greeley household. Kevin was following his father's footsteps. Joseph P. Greeley served on the Select Board for nearly 2 decades, from 1953 to 1972. Town leaders say Joseph's influence meant a lot to his son. Kevin took what he learned from his dad and parlayed it into a stellar career. Kevin was born and raised right here in Arlington. Loved ones say he always had a warm smile, a marvelous sense of humor, and was exceedingly outgoing. He was also known to be a great communicator, finding the right words and striking the right tone at the right time. Town leaders say Kevin had an uncanny knack for striking the pitch-perfect balance when it came to doing what he thought was right for Arlington. Often when he spoke on the Select Board, people listened. He was clearly influential in helping to launch the career of Arlington's current Select Board chair.
Kevin was the best. He was, Kevin had been here longer, sitting at the Board of Selectmen longer than I've even lived in town. And he was there to help me when I moved into town and learn about town politics. And he was here when I started to run. And but obviously it wasn't just me he helped. He helped when I sat down and I tried to think about all the people that he helped and all the things that he did, and the list was just too long.
Well, really the end of an era, as Dan Dunn had told us previously, and some on the select board, of course, would agree with that. And as Marie said in the piece with Jeff there, the administrator for the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board rather, it does come as unexpected when someone is so powerful and influential, or just is such a big part of the community. And unfortunately, the same thing happened to his brother Brian at the age of 55, whom I worked with on the Patriots' Day Parade.
That is an amazing and kind of tragic coincidence. And I have to say that, just to echo again what somebody else has already said, I found that Kevin really was the energy. He supplied energy in every room that he entered. I think that was Adam Chapdelaine who said that, and that was my experience of him as well.
Right, right. And speaking with some of the younger, newer select board members, John heard his father, Jack, served with Kevin, and Kevin's father served with Jack's uncle. So they always would joke, they tell me that there was two families in Arlington that were serving, but one was really blessed with the speaking skills, and that was the Greeleys. But two families really serving, and a big loss for Kevin and for the town of Arlington, Kevin's family.
Well, we will have more on the life of Kevin Greeley as APN News continues. But first, Arlingtonians got a chance to discuss the future of the Arlington High School facade at a town hall forum this week. And APN was there and will tell you what was discussed.
And some new ideas to get rid of rats in Arlington using a very ancient method. But there are some potential dangers. That and more when we come back.
We taught him how to hit a baseball, how to hit a receiver. You even taught him how to hit the open man. But how much time have you spent teaching him what not to hit?
Arlingtonians are getting a closer look at the proposal to replace the deteriorating high school, and many like what they see.
The high school building committee held its forum on November 27th. Despite a date change due to Kevin Greeley's wake, over 200 people filled Town Hall. Those in attendance pleased to see how the much-admired columns in the front of the building could be reused, and wowed by interior plans, but some still questioning the overall cost.
The layout you're seeing right now of
high school architect Lori Cowles providing a glimpse of what a $308 million modern learning facility looks like, while also trying to maintain some of the historic elements from the building's facades the town has come to love, such as the 100-plus-year-old Fusco House stonework and the main building's stately columns.
This idea is that it actually becomes your proscenium at your auditorium. I mean, even from this image, it certainly would be very dramatic. When you reinterpret these things and you bring them into the building, yes, they're not being used the way they always were before, but they're there and they prompt the question, what's this? What's it from?
All new construction options would include the historic material. It's just a matter of where. Still, not enough for some who want to save the two older buildings, but AHS Building Committee Chair Jeff Thielman telling the crowd at Town Hall that would be an additional $25 million and would jeopardize the roughly $100 million in state funds from the already approved schematic design. Cowles called the proposed plans a building nestled in the green instead of a wide swath of underutilized lawn in the front that people at past forums wanted to keep. The site plan also calls for a road around the building, more parking, room for fields in the back, and a ramp connection from the bike path.
I'm very excited about this project and what it means for Arlington's future, and I was just hoping to hear a little bit more about how the new building will improve things for individuals with disabilities, accessibility to the building.
So every entry will be accessible. There'll be accessible parking. We are creating on the east side, so the right side of the screen that you've been looking at, a ramp as well as stairs, but ramp to connect through the site.
At the heart of the project is making the building have just that, a center where students and teachers are energized by open and collaborative spaces.
And one of the things that I'm really excited about in this particular building design option that we decided to go with is there's a really strong central spine. When you first walk into the building, you get an instant sense of what the building is going to be like. That, you know, you walk in, you can see the learning commons up above, you can tell the cafeteria is going to come down below, the performing arts spaces are to your left. And then one other thing I'm excited about is the discourse lab. I can envision a discourse lab with a nice drop-down screen projecting the posters, you know, in a really big size, and kids with laser pointers.
A beautiful design, said some commenters, but it's the cost they question. The cost per square footage is the highest in the state, but it's a unique site, says construction professional and school building community member Frank Callahan.
This would be like building a school in downtown Boston. There's not sufficient laydown space for materials for the construction contractors. There's traffic concerns. You have a limited space. It's going to be done in 3 phases.
The total project cost also includes $70 million for some town departments housed in the high school, but with escalating estimates built in, one that officials stress will not rise.
Once the MSBA votes what the project cap is, that is how much the project will be.
That sounds like a lot of money, but when you get into the details that I have with some of the committee members, you find out it is not what you think it is.
A sentiment that people need to trust and thank the committee for what has been done for the town so far, getting the most applause for the night.
There were 25 people working their tushes off on this. And someplace along the line, we ought to say, thank you.
Thank you, Ted.
The Arlington High School Building Committee will decide on a final exterior design at their December 4th meeting. Residents have a chance to have their say through an online forum that you can see on our screen until December 2nd. Previous stories and forms are also on our website, acmi.tv/ahs-building-project.
For centuries, humankind has struggled with ways to deal with excess rat populations. These pests can carry potentially lethal diseases and parasites. But just how to take out these rodents was the topic of conversation at Arlington's police headquarters. And that's where Stephanie Wittenbach talked to an expert who is educating the public on more sensible and humane alternatives.
Naturally, people and communities turn to rodenticides to quickly rid their homes and businesses of rodents. Diane Welch, Arlington's animal control officer, a caring advocate for animals, brings a raptor to the meeting to try and inform people that these harmful poisons do hurt predators in the area, but can also hurt pets that get a hold of poisoned rats and even the poison itself.
My sister's friend's beautiful black lab up in Maine, where there's so much land and space, he didn't know his neighbors were using rat poison, mouse poison, and his dog ate a poisoned mouse, and by the time they realized, you know, how sick the dog was and got it to the vet, it was too late. So I don't want that happening to domestic or wild animals.
She and Gary Menon, the chapter director of Mass Rats, took initiative to hold this meeting and educate the community that there can be other humane ways of killing off the rodents without having to harm other animals in the process. And their main priority is to help predators in our food chain continue to do their job, but be safe from the harmful toxins in rats. Mass Rat is a subgroup of the nonprofit organization based in Berkeley, California, that educates people about the role birds play in our ecosystem and the dangers they face from rat poison.
And ultimately, the deal is to try to encourage the raptors to catch these rodents and stay in the food chain where they belong and keep from endangering our precious raptors.
In its latest findings from 2010, the Tufts Wildlife Clinic tested more than 160 birds of prey and found that 86% of those birds had rodenticide residue in its tissue samples, a number Gary says is unacceptably high.
But anyways, the key point is that every person you tell about this and spread the word, that another person likely not to be using this. And every time someone stops using this, I'm convinced probably somewhere, someplace, sometime, some raptor will be saved.
Menon says more humane alternatives like ultrasonic pest repellers, dependable snap traps, or dry ice are just as effective in killing rats and pose no danger to birds of prey. Your indoor cat is a natural hunter and is just as reliable. Presuming rat poisons are nowhere near their territory, experts say being proactive, like cutting off a rodent's food supply, is critical.
Rubbish, trash, not being secured properly. Whether that's open dumpsters or just trash bags on the curb. If there is a food source, they're going to be there.
I'm Stephanie Wittenbach for Arlington Public News.
APN talked with Arlington's Health Compliance Officer, Kylie Sullivan, to understand the health department's approach to eliminating rats through preventative action. Integrated Pest Management, or IPM, the goal is to remove any excess food, water, or harborage areas that invite rodents, but also improve exclusion by sealing any entry points. On occasion, if IPM is unsuccessful, rodenticides would be used. For more info on what the town is doing, check out the latest segment at acmi.tv/the-rise-of-rats.
Well, there are a lot of events on the horizon at Arlington High School as we are now knee-deep into the holiday season.
And here's Reese Steffen from Studio B with this week's Ponderscope.
Welcome to the Ponderscope, your Arlington High School news, updates, and more. Attention freshmen, starting December 3rd and continuing on until Friday, freshman seminars will be held. If you do not already have a seminar scheduled, be sure to schedule one with your guidance counselors. Parent-teacher conferences will be held on Tuesday, December 4th, starting at 6 p.m., continuing on until 8. Parents, please remember to schedule meetings if you've not done so already. The Student Council will meet in room 304 at 7 o'clock on Wednesday. Starting at 7 p.m. on Thursday, the Ottoson Middle School will be holding a parent forum in the cafeteria entitled Partying Equals Intoxication, a Harmful Message for Teens. This forum will address the issues of underage drinking. On Friday, December 7th at 6 p.m. in Old Hall, the Arlington High School Journalism Club will be hosting a journalism symposium. This will be a panel of local and nationally known journalists. Admission is free and food will be served at the event. I'm Reese Steffen and this has been the Ponderscope.
The term fake news has become a worldwide catchphrase, especially since Donald Trump's ascent to the White House in 2016. So how do future journalists approach this profession without losing themselves in the constant barrage of questionable facts?
Well, that's the topic of an upcoming panel discussion at Arlington High School, and APN is playing a part. Also, Arlington High's track and field phenom Ryan Oosting celebrates yet another triumph in his illustrious career. Sports from Studio B is next.
And as we said at the top of the newscast all this week, Arlington is mourning the loss of Kevin Greeley. That includes all of us here at ACMi. A final tribute and a sincere thank you to a man who devoted his entire life to making Arlington a better place.
Hey, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Look. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today.
We have all the Spy Ponder action from the frigid Thanksgiving Day games as a holiday sports tradition comes to a close.
And track and field star Ryan Oosting is on fire. Here's your sports update from Studio B with Carlos Abreu.
Hello Arlington sports lovers and welcome to another edition of the ACMi Sports Update. Arlington High School and Arlington Catholic ended an 11-year tradition last week where the two football teams met for their last Thanksgiving game. The two teams competed hard on the crisp Wednesday night, which ended with the Spy Ponders winning by only 1 point. The 21-20 win over AC put AHS at an all-time 7-4 lead in the history of the rivalry.
And a little pitch, he's got a man out of the middle, and it's a touchdown! Leo Maniti brings it in! Bang, bang, boom, there's your man Maniti.
Maniti, I like Maniti in the middle of the field in the red zone. At that time, Maniti was wide open.
ACMi sports broadcaster Scott Zwick sat down with some of the Spy Ponders as well as Coach Zendrin after their win.
Talk to us a little bit about that last drive and what your thought process was as you ran out in the football field. What are you thinking? Are you thinking about the specific play, or are you thinking, okay, we've got to get into the end zone? What's your thought? What's going through your head?
Well, I'm just thinking about every specific play. I'm thinking about like what's going to work, like what me and coach are going to talk about in the sideline, like in terms of what we want to run. I mean, I know we have to get into the end zone. I know that was going to be it. So that definitely added a little mojo to us, I'd say. But at that point, you just have to focus on the individual play.
Arlington High with a 21-20 win. Sam, 3 extra points, 3 for 3, 21-20. Doesn't take a math major to know that those were 3 big kicks. Tell me about the kicks.
Yeah, so we talked about valuing those points because we knew that was going to be huge. With the win, it was going to be a low-scoring game. We needed to do everything perfectly with the kicks to get them through, especially with the wind. And I got to give my credit to my line. Peter Roach has been awesome holding the ball all year, and I can't do it without them. They have to do it too. So,
tell me about what do you have a mental process you go through before a big kick? Is it the same for every kick? What's going through your mind?
Yeah, so you'll see for every kick, I give Peter a fist bump and I say, every time, all day. Sort of instilling confidence in him, giving confidence to me, and it's just like a routine, you know.
Are you going to miss playing with these guys?
Oh, yeah. I've been playing with these guys, like Steve said, since 7th grade, and this is my last football game ever, and I wouldn't want to go out any other way.
Talk about your seniors. I mean, we saw Sam Swift with tears in his eyes at the end, and how special this is for this team to get a win like that.
Yeah, I mean, it brings tears to my eyes, you know? Like, these guys were freshmen when I got here, and they didn't know what a read option was or what 70s protection was, and now you heard Bowler rattle off a play. You know, these guys are adjusting at the line. Our second touchdown, we had one play on, and they looked back to me like, are you kidding? We're not going to run this against this defense. So we changed that at the line, and that was that touchdown to Leah.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah, you know? So, like, the kids, man, they've learned so much. And
is that what happened?
Yeah, that's what happened, and they're all in on it. They put so much into this year-round. You know, a lot of these guys are working out after basketball or after baseball, and I think that's why you see the emotion pour out. You know, they really feel like they won by 1 point, and all that stuff added up to being enough to earn it.
Next Thanksgiving, the Spy Ponders will play Waltham, while the Cougars will play Billerica Shanshin Tech. To get a look off the turf, track and field star Ryan Oosting locked in another career spotlight after winning the Northeastern Regionals. Oosting has now qualified to compete at the Nike National Championship in Portland, Oregon at Saturday, December 1st at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If you're interested in watching the race, be sure to tune into the live stream at nxn.runnerspace.com. Good luck to Ryan as he continues to grow his incredible career. That's all we have for sports this week, but be sure to tune in to ACMi as we get closer to the start of the winter season.
The role of journalism has become a topic of national discussion, and now high school journalists are exploring how news is being reported.
Yes, James, in light of changing technology and the political climate, student journalists at Arlington High School are looking to get the community involved in the discussion. The AHS Journalism Club will be holding a panel discussion, including myself and other local and nationally published reporters. The club puts out an online publication covering news and events at the high school and hopes to raise funds from food sold during the panel to put out a printed edition. The journalism panel will be held Friday, December 7th at Old Hall in the high school. It is free and open to the public. We hope you can support them.
And you can check out our latest segments and newscasts on the web at acmi.tv/news. And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Arlington Public.
And if you have any news tips for us here at Arlington Public News, we'd love to hear from you. Email us at news@acmi.tv or stop by our studio at 85 Park Ave. I'm Brenda Mahoney.
And I'm James Milan. As we reported at the top of this newscast, Arlington lost one of its favorite sons, Kevin Greeley, died this week at the age of 68. Kevin was a frequent visitor to ACMi, often staging his programs in this very studio. He truly recognized the value of our TV station in this tight-knit community.
And he encouraged others to see what we're all about. He had his own trademark personality, and he always made time for others, including us.
So, for his sincere kindness, generous spirit, and his genuine love for life, we thank him. with heavy hearts. Our thoughts and prayers are with his loved ones that he left behind. And when it comes to Kevin Greeley, there are so many of those.